important thing I think for us is if you've got the America the Beautiful Pass, it's $80 and it gets you into all the national parks and forests. And if you camp where you have to pay for a site there, bless you, like when we went to the Grand Canyon or Mount Rainier, the sites were supposed to be $32 and we got them for $16, half off. So that's key. But your choices if you're doing this van travel thing are Walmart, Cracker Barrel, Waysides, campgrounds. Other people talked about Truckstops. We did that. Hospital parking lots. Trying to go incognito in residential areas or whatever. But I think you're going to find enough spots for the most part with Walmarts, Truckstops, Waysides. Can we agree that for us, Waysides were definitely the number one choice for traveling? When we were at a place, like when we got to Mount Rainier, that campground was incredible. But if we're getting to and from, it was Waysides, right?
Well, I mean, think about how we used them. The Waysides were used when it was just the two of us traveling, and we were more, I wouldn't say in a hurry, but just traveling from point A to point B.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it's just the two of us, we don't need extra space, we don't need anything but the place to stop the car, lay down in the bed in the back, right back there. And then, you would use the outside toilets. I didn't like to use the outside toilets in the middle of the night. I do not like bugs, and they are attracted to the light that you have to turn on your phone to walk you from the car to the pit stop. So I used my bucket, which is over there.
Whole different video.
And you can watch a different video on that if you're interested in how I use that bucket. But when we were at the campsite in the Mount Rainier area, we had a guest. We had our son, and so then we needed extra space. Plus, we wanted to chill. You wanted to sit by a fire, and so you have to think about what you're using it for. And if you have a national park pass, this is what we were told: you can sleep anywhere in that national park that doesn't have a no overnight parking sign somewhere. So, we saw lots when we were in the Great Smoky Mountains area, or where else were we, Dan? The Grand Canyon area.
When we were in Moab, Utah area.
If there are those pullouts and you're just tired, you could theoretically go there. Now, I wouldn't, because look, you're at a busy highway. And what if, I don't know, somebody plows into you? So I like to get off the highway to sleep. I want to feel safe, and I felt safe at the Waysides we were at because most of them were extremely well attended by truckers and cars. So we'd go to bed at 9 o'clock, 9:30, whatever, and when we would wake up, there was like hardly any empty space, so it felt very safe. The state patrol would come through periodically. We stayed at we stayed at commercial businesses like a Walmart, and that was loud all night long. I mean, every 2 hours there'd be a wave of either workers or shift or whatever coming in, and they'd talk to each other walk through the parking lot, and that was just uncomfortable to hear people talking so close to the car. So I didn't really like that. We were told by some people, you could go to a hospital, and we were considering that last night actually, but I was wondering if you hear constant, or depending on the size of the city, I suppose, sirens as they came into the emergency room. So I don't know if that would work.
If somebody's trying to figure out, again, wherever you're going, stay in the beautiful spot and get the good campsite. Anytime you can get a governmental campsite instead of the commercial ones. People talk to me about what they paid for commercial campsites, especially with plugins and stuff. It's like, then you might as well just stay at a hotel.
Well, that campground we were in at the Mount Rainier area was a commercial one, and that was great.
But I mean, it was in the national park. It was run by a commercial enterprise, but it was the National Forest campground. But when you think about Waysides, I think, 10 years ago, you could pull in a Wayside and stay there for days and nobody was going to question it. But I think with more vagrancy and with more van life wife people, we saw plenty of waysides that said 6 hours maximum, or now even in states that didn't have to have those kind of things before, we just stopped at one here in Wisconsin that said no overnight parking. So, I don't know what their definition is, or if they're gonna, push you out or not. But if you come into a wayside, the couple of things to consider are, when you come right off the highway into the wayside, that's when you're going to hear the noise, and you're going to hear doors slamming where people just come in to use the bathroom and get in and out. So my suggestion is, if you can get into a wayside and get an awkward spot to get to that's as far from the bathrooms as possible, that's where you're going to sleep the best, and it's going to be the quietest. And make sure you kind of back your vehicle in or drive your vehicle in so that your head is a little bit higher than your feet, if not level, because otherwise it's tough to sleep, and that your level left to right is more important than front to back, because otherwise your wife's going to be rolling in on top of you, or you're going to be rolling in on top of her or your partner, however that works. So think about that as you come into a wayside. Well lit is better to avoid vandalism and theft, but that means you better have your expensive window coverings. We have these covers on the front and on the back windows. I just use landscaping.
This is landscaping fabric.
That way,
Can't really.
it keeps all the light out, but it's easy to get through. As Ann pointed out, Walmart was not for us. Yes, it has 24-hour surveillance, but you'd think Walmart's used to be 24 hours. Now the ones we stayed at closed at like 10 or 11, but even so, the crew is leaving, yelling across the parking lot to each other about where they're going after work, then the cleaning crew's coming and going, then the restocking crew. All night long, it was like a classroom hallway in a school with kids yelling to each other, so that wasn't the right answer for us. So when you're looking for those waysides, the other thing is, 5 years ago you used to be able to put wayside or rest area in Google Maps or Apple, and they'd all pop up. Warning, conspiracy theory. I think Google Maps and Apple Maps now puts in stuff that pays to be there. So now you're seeing other commercial businesses, but you don't see the waysides. So I would encourage, like when we went across Montana, we knew where the waysides were because we have the Montana Department of Transportation website to show us the waysides, what they were, and where the features were. Be aware different states have different qualities of waysides, and you can look on Google Maps and go to the walkthrough feature to see them. And the best in my mind is where the big semi-trucks have to go on one side of the buildings and the cars on the other, so otherwise you're going to hear trucks idling all night long, big semi-trucks. Whereas with car traffic, you might hear a door slam here or there, but that's it. The other thing is the quirks of the different states. Like, which state was it that ran the sprinklers on all their picnic tables and stuff?
And the one stop we were at, I don't know.
One of the states decided to keep the rest stops clean. Their lawn sprinklers spray off the picnic tables and everything, but it only happens once an hour. So if you use it, you're screwed there. But, anything else about stopping in waysides?
Well, I was just going to say, when we met a couple who's doing their van life, and they're doing it way more than we are, so they have a different setup, but she found a website, and I think it's called freecampsites.net, and that might be another option, is just to search before you go if you are a planner and want to kind of get an idea, or if you have internet while you're on the way, you can search. I think it's freecampsites.net.
Yeah, I think that the planner, sometimes it's helped us, sometimes not, to just be extemporaneously blowing through this. Like, we picked the van up from the rental place, like I said, at 4 o'clock on a Monday, and I built out the bunk and you loaded the stuff in, and we were on the highway less than 4 hours later. So that's how much time we spent prepping.
Well, we prepped days before getting things
bags
organized.
ready and things like that. But I mean,
once we were organized.
Yeah, but I mean, I physically screwed together the bunk and we built it, and you loaded everything in and packed the coolers, and we got on the road and we crossed half of the state of Wisconsin and almost almost all the state of Minnesota and found a wayside that night. We didn't know if it was going to be a wayside in Minnesota or North Dakota. We were just going to go as far as we're going to go. So if you lock yourself into this is where we're going to stay, and you get there 3 hours early, hopefully it's a place with hiking trails and stuff you want to be at, or it's going to not be happy for you. Or if you're getting really tired and you want to stop and the place you planned is still 3 hours up the road, it sure is great to be able to have an earlier wayside to pull into, right?